Welcome to Truth Quest. If you are striving to balance earthly challenges with a heavenly perspective in areas like business, family, relationships, money, and personal growth, you have found your community. So, especially as you've been working with your Kingdom Marketplace, which I love the vision of that. Actually, would you mind expanding on that? Just share a little bit more about the vision of Kingdom Marketplace.
Yeah. So the thing I really feel like is so often we talk about doing business God's way. We'll do this God's way type thing. And a lot of times we will um, do that to a degree, but then when it comes to specific business decisions, we can wind up in a ditch and we'll be operating from good business practice that are actually out of alignment with kingdom principles.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, a lot of times we don't know the difference between the two. And the way that you can define that is through, first of all, scripture, right? Coming into alignment with what does God say in his written word. But then also, if you're looking at the application of that, sometimes it can get a little muddy if we're not really deeply connected in prayer. And so I think if you're looking at like, what's the heart of why do I want to do this type of training, or why do I want to build this type of community? I see so many people that have great experiences in business, and it's kind of encapsulated, and they don't really share that, the wins. They don't share the joy of what it looks like after the storm, or what it looks like after the third time you crashed and failed, and you got up and went ahead and did the next thing and succeeded. So capturing those conversations, I think, is really important to, if we're looking at how do we overcome, there's the blood of the Lamb, but then there's this word, this thing of our testimony, the thing that the Lord does in our lives. So if you're looking at how do I encourage a fellow entrepreneur in their journey, outside of just sharing common business wisdom, which can be helpful, the real thing that brings breakthrough, the real thing that brings an eternal significance to what we're doing is our testimony in Christ. It's not our testimony and just saying like, okay, I sold X amount of profit last year. That doesn't matter at the end of the day. Like, there's no eternal significance to that. So capturing those conversations, I think, is important. But then from that, that's the conversation side. But then on the business side of what I do, like, how do you make money, Michael? How does this thing? Because I mean, it's a business. We said if it doesn't make money, it's not a business.
Right.
So there's the two things that I do is, first of all, I help people leverage technology, specifically AI and automations. So if you're looking at like how do we free up our time? Jesus said, "My yoke is easy and my burden is light." So a lot of times we'll take on things that aren't our thing to do, and we'll weigh ourselves down, and it becomes really heavy. So one thing that I found that's like an easy lift to lighten our load so that we can run faster and further, to free up energy, is to automate things. And fortunately, we're at a place in technology where things can easily be implemented, even with people that have little to no knowledge of technology. Things can be implemented into their business. Yes, I'm dropping that because I know it to be. You told it to be true.
It's me.
But it's reality, though. Just things that are so easy to drop into our business that lighten our load and free up time and energy, which is our most valuable resource, energy. So how do we free that up to where we do feel like we're carrying a burden that is light? Because if you're truly called into this thing that you're calling your business, it shouldn't feel like you're burdened down so heavy that your nose is on the grind all the time.
Right. It should be somewhat joyful, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's the two sides of it. One is the conversations, capturing that wisdom, capturing that testimony, but then the other side of it is like, how do I help these people to lighten the load? And AI plays a big role, and automations play a big role in that. So that's that's what I do. The other side of that I talk about a lot is, because we love to serve, we take on serving others that aren't necessarily in our field of call. So the
Yeah.
Lord's given us specific people in our sphere that we have influence over. So, and I think having the right tools, even the AI and things, can help you identify the right people. So the two paired together can create this path where you're talking only to the people that God's called you to serve. And it's not that we
Mm.
don't care about the other people, but there's somebody next to you to the right or left that should be falling into line with you and catching those because they are called to serve them. And I think that's
Right.
the hard part is, we have such a heart of service. And I know this to be true about you. We take on these burdens that aren't ours to carry. So if there's anybody
Right.
watching or listening, that would be my encouragement is don't take on a burden that you're not meant to carry.
And it's, yeah, you're right. It's not that we don't care. Sometimes you need to connect them with the person that can do it. But yeah, I will pick up all the wrong things sometimes. And I'm not in the business of saving people. That's Jesus. I need to stay in my lane.
Yeah.
How did you get into this business of coaching and teaching and doing all the leadership? What pulled
hmm
you that way?
People. I
Mm-hmm.
think I think oftentimes we see people who are like, I have no idea. Like, this was never my vision or my path.
Uh-huh.
Um, and we read and we see, and it's in memes everywhere. You're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and on and on.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that to be true because I've seen it work in my life. And so as I've gone through business, I started as a real estate agent 20 some years ago. Um,
Mm-hmm.
way over 20 years ago, actually. And through that, met a lot of people that graciously, openly pulled me into their world and had some great mentors. And through that, I just grew really in their vision and their belief in me. I never saw what most people see in me and didn't really own it for several years. I just blindly followed their belief in me. One of my partners always says, borrow on my belief in you. And I did that for a long time to
Mm.
find out where I'm at. And in every step of business, right? Work isn't always fun, but in every step of business, I've been blessed with doing a lot of things I love, but I've really been blessed with working with people that I love.
Mm-hmm.
And
Oh, it makes a huge difference, doesn't it?
yeah, like people that have truly changed my life in so many ways at different seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And the one thing that came out of every season of my professional career was I love business. I think it's a lot of fun, and I love people.
Mm-hmm.
So now I get to do exactly that. I get to work with people to build their life, and through that, their
Right.
business.
Just marry those things together.
Mm-hmm.
So God's aligning you, right? He's put you in alignment with all these different people, different companies, right? The
Mm-hmm.
business owners. Um, what do you think? I mean, how is he? And I don't know the answer to this. You may not either. But how is he aligning you with all of this to be used for his glory? Because we know that. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
everybody questions what is the will of God, and I think that it's a much easier answer than what we think. The will of
Mm-hmm.
God is that no one should perish, that all of us would be with him. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's his
Mm-hmm.
will. Anything that we choose to do to get there, that's
Right.
free will, right? And
Right.
so, I love the fact that you don't hold still waiting for this word from God because he leaves that up to you. He really does.
Mm-hmm.
Are there
Mm-hmm.
easier paths and harder paths? Yes. But once you've chosen the path, now how do you figure out where in this, how are we going to glorify God? I mean, these are the things I chew on because I do a lot of the same things you do, right? I teach
Mm-hmm.
and I coach and speak in different places, and it's like, how do we do this and make sure that he gets the glory and not us?
Mm-hmm.
It's hard sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so this is me asking, not assuming you have an answer.
Oh, good. I'm like, good. Is this a test?
No, I
You
want
didn't
to
send me any questions before we
find
started. I've done no AI on this. I just don't know. I don't know. I always think, here's what I think. I think at every turn of my life, no matter what the season, it's always pulled me in a way of people. And I've always said, everybody deserves love.
Mhm.
There's something to love about every person. Every person has a gift. And
Mhm.
my top 5 values are love, impact, forgiveness, grace, and courage. And I don't know how I serve God in his will, but I know that every single day my mission is to make people feel seen, loved, and impacted.
Mhm.
And I don't care if that's being extra gracious with the waitress at a restaurant, or thanking the wonderful man who opened my door, or having a really loving conversation with a client,
Mhm.
or Marco Poloing with my daughter and like, I don't know what it is. And every morning I pray, there's one thing I do every single day, no matter what. And I just say, I just ask, show me your gifts for me and your path for me today.
Mhm.
And every day I know I have to live in those values.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I just assume, if that's wrong, I'm going to figure it out. But
Yeah.
I keep ending up here, just at different opportunities with different people, with different, like, it just keeps showing up. So I have to assume that this is my path. This is his path for me.
I think that living, living the life you're living with the priorities that you've given it, right? Love people
Mm-hmm.
and see them.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if you to glorify God in that is to do that out of respect for the fact that they are a creation of God.
Right.
And if they ask you why, be willing and ready to tell them about Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's our only job. Jesus only gave us one job: go out and make disciples. But if you're going to
Yeah.
make disciples, you better act like one.
Right.
Which is, you got to love people first. Let someone ask you why. I think
Mm-hmm.
you have to earn the right to tell somebody.
Yeah, because I mean, I coach people of all different, faith backgrounds and stuff like that.
Right.
But then also, like when I'm working with people where either we share a faith or at least I understand where they're coming from in their faith, then I could say, well, how are you living that out? How does that show up in your work? How does that show up in your business?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because I mean, you and I are both in the business world. We work with, lowercase e entrepreneurs a lot. Business should be causing human flourishing. It should be making the world a better place because you're in business.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't just do business to like make a profit, right?
Mm-hmm.
I heard Jeff Van Duzer talks about this in his book. It's called Why God Cares About Business.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really good book. But he says, like, if you're just doing work to make money to give to the charity, he goes, then your work is like amoral. It's not, it's, neither good or bad. He goes, but that would be like the drug dealer saying, but I take the money I make off the drugs and I fund the orphanage. He's like, nobody would say that's good. Everyone would say, like, but you're destroying our community to serve that community. So first thing first, like when you're doing business, you should have a view that I am living within a calling of who I am in Christ, who I'm in God, and I'm making the world a better place because of it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And then for those of us who employ people, same thing. Like, how do we help people live out their full human expression because we're in their life?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Their full creativity, their full sense of like productivity, of alignment, their sense of like they should be better parents because they work with us. They should be better spouses because they work with us, better neighbors because they work with us. Like all of, if we're just like making people work for us to extract value out of them, to take the best hours of their day, the best years of their life,
Right.
and then send them home exhausted, angry, depleted. Like, no, we're not. That's not good. That's not healthy. That's not a good like theology of work. Here's my conviction, Diet. And while I personally don't have a lot of employees, I coach a lot of businesses that do.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things we always talk about, and I've had employees in the past, one of the things we talk about all the time is if somebody works for you, they only work for you for one reason. And it's your job to figure out what that reason is.
Mm.
Right? Most employers think that people work for them for money, but it's not true. The evidence on this is overwhelming. That people work for money to a certain point.
Right.
Once they hit that level of income, it varies per person. Once they hit that level of income, more money does not make them happier. More money does not make them want to work more. More money does not motivate or incentivize them. This is really difficult for small business owners, for entrepreneurs, because most entrepreneurs are really money motivated. It's a bunch of reasons why, not least of which is ego. But but most people aren't motivated by that. They're like, well, this is how much I need to make. By the way, how much do they need to make? Typically enough to cover their necessities plus a couple of luxuries. Like that's it. So beyond that, what do people want? They want flexibility in their schedule. They want autonomy. They want a sense of purpose, that their work has meaning. So that's the other thing. Let's go back to our friend on the line, installing widgets on the doodad. Most people do not understand the purpose of their company, the mission of their company, what it is that their company is trying to do in the world. Second, most employees do not know how their work impacts the mission of the company. Right? So when you say, hey, listen, I know this job is a little bit tedious, it's a little bit monotonous, you're putting the thing on the thing, right? But here's the deal. This product, when it's all done, this is the good that it does in the world. Right? And this part is important to that. It's critical to that function. So this, and by the way, even if it's silly, right? Like, hey, we're making, I don't know, toys.
Yeah.
Okay. Like these toys bring joy and entertainment and happiness to children. And this part, they don't work without that part.
Yeah.
I literally specialize in creating meetings where there's collaboration. That has to happen by intention. It doesn't happen accidentally because you happen to use the same lunchroom.
Right.
If we want people, knowledge workers, to get their most work done, we have to teach them how to design their day. We have to teach them how to get into deep work, or what Cal Newport also calls slow productivity, which is much more productive. But if we are forcing people to spend 10 hours of their day, because it's not 8 hours, right? It is, you got to go ready for work. You got to drive to work. You got to do all these things. By the way, knowledge workers can't work for more than about 4 hours a day anyway on really great work.
Yeah.
And so what we could do is say, this is the output we want. These are the results that we want. How can we equip and empower you to do them? Right. And by the way, like, the reason I get fired up about this, and the reason that this stuff kind of comes easily to me, because going back to what we were talking about earlier, this is also just sort of my perspective on the nature of humanity, the nature of like what it is that we are made in the likeness and image of God, and how we're supposed to work with, how we're supposed to minister to one another, how we're supposed to be lifting one another up, how we are supposed to encourage each other. Listen to this word, Diet, such a good word. Encourage. If I'm encouraging you, I'm putting courage into you, right? Like every person we meet is made in the image and likeness of God, is a child of God. God is beckoning them to come, every single person. How dare we use people? There is of God in everyone. That's their phrase. There is of God. Quakers, yeah. The Friends, they're a Anabaptist offshoot of the Anglican Church in the maybe 1600s.
Huh. Okay. There
and they
is
make oatmeal.
God in everyone.
There is of God in everyone.
That's kind of cool.
Isn't it?
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
So, I mean, I think it's important to pause, look at our jobs, and go, I'm going to be spending 30, 40, 50, 60 hours a week doing this, interacting with other people. How is this blessing the world? How is this?
How are you advancing the kingdom? How are you glorifying God?
For sure.
Because we only have one job, right? Go out and make disciples. You can't do that if they won't even talk to you. You can't do that.
Or if you're just stuck in transactional relationships with everyone.
Right.
If everything is just like, I give you this, you give me that. I give you that. If we're instead in transformational relationships and every person sitting before you is a child of God, someone whom God is standing on the front porch of his house, waiting for them to return, right? If we believe in a future where heaven comes to earth and the garden city of New Jerusalem just like comes and her gates will never be shut, and God is calling all people, the kingdoms, the kings of this world, the nations of this world, all come pouring in. Like, this is the future that we have a hope in.
Yeah.
And that's who we get to talk to today.
Right. Right. Because his will be done on earth as it is in heaven today.
Today. Now. So we make that happen. You make that happen in one small way right where you're at.
That is so good. I just love getting to visit with you. Thank you for that.
I know, we should do more often.
And we're out of time. Now that just flew by. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Josh. Thank you. Thank you. And for the rest of you, I just urge you, go out and sprinkle a little grace, even if that's all you got. As we conclude this episode of Truth Quest, we invite you to be a part of the conversation. Send in your questions, thoughts, and reflections. Don't forget, like, follow, and subscribe to stay updated on our journey together. Until next time, may you continue to seek truth with courage, and remember to sprinkle a little grace, even if that's all you've got.